Tesla stock bull Larry thinks that Tesla could generate $3 per share just from the charging business alone. And last year, Tesla made $3.62 per share. And the simplest way to increase the price of a stock is to increase earnings. In this case, we would be doubling Tesla's earnings, which in theory could double Tesla's stock price. He thinks this is all possible within the next 5 years. And it's just from the supercharging business alone. Of course, how much this would impact the price of a stock as well would depend on the price to earnings ratio. Maybe a PE ratio of 57 almost is not exactly the most appropriate PE ratio for a charging business 5 years from now, because some may say that PE ratio is too low. Personally, I like to be conservative, so I would attach a lower PE ratio to it, but in reality, that PE ratio may not be too wrong if a supercharging business keeps growing exponentially like this for many years to come. Many who like to be more conservative will give it a PE ratio of maybe about 20. We'll dive into Larry's numbers and then we'll go through all of today's Tesla stock news. Larry is forecasting that the profits from the supercharging network this year could be $648 million. And although that does not move a profit needle that much, it has all of the hallmarks of a Tesla business. It is strategic because it enables the mission, of course. It is incredibly capital efficient. It is a standalone profitable business. There's huge potential upside. And of course, Tesla is a natural leader in the space. If we assume that Tesla is not going to make any more money each quarter than it did in Q1, then Tesla is going to make about $10 billion in profit this year in total. So even though $648 million sounds like a lot of money, when we compare it to what Tesla is going to do this year, it's not really all that much. Strategically, of course, the supercharging network is extremely important, especially in the US, because all of the other chargers, they barely work, or when they do work, they often don't provide the best user experience. In reality, though, of course, even the competitor-made supercharging stations such as Electrify America, in reality, they do work most of the time. But if you need to charge and the charger doesn't work and you have like 5% left in your battery, you're done. You are never going to rely on that network ever again. That just does not happen with Tesla superchargers. It all started as a mission enabler, but now it is going to be also a huge profit center in the long term. It's also incredibly capital efficient. Tesla is able to install these superchargers at much lower cost than everyone else. Look at Australia, for example. Tesla is able to do it 35% cheaper, not to mention how much more better it actually is for the end user. So you don't see these, you're creating a product that costs you less, but is much better. You gotta think about that. California, the costs are 55% less for Tesla, and in New York, it's 75% less compared to competitors. And these superchargers, the number of them is growing really fast. Look at all of these installations. It started slow, and then it really starts to pick up. Every single quarter, we have thousands of new connectors. We have almost 5,000 stations and 45,000 individual connectors in the world. In the US, there are 145,000 fueling stations, so we still need a lot of new superchargers. Charging takes quite a bit more time than fueling your vehicle, so you would think you may need more charging stations. However, many people, if not most of them, actually charge at home. So it's not extremely obvious if we actually will need more supercharging stations than we have fueling stations, but clearly we still need a lot more chargers. Sometimes Tesla makes it a little bit difficult for us Tesla stock investors to find out exactly what is the actual data that we can look at that gives us real details about Tesla's business. And here Larry has some insight about Tesla's supercharging business. For example, this slide was shared during Tesla's Investor Day, and here we can see the number of kilowatt hours used per post daily. Looking at this, we are able to calculate exactly how much electricity Tesla sold each year because we know the number of connectors. And right now we are at 45,000. Knowing all of this information, we can now calculate exactly how much money Tesla generated from this charging business. If we just make a few assumptions, for example, how much the electricity cost for Tesla. Larry is going with a notional price of 36 cents per kilowatt hour and 16 cents per kilowatt hour in terms of cost of electricity. As you can see, these numbers are pretty significant. What you see here are projected sales and gross margin contributions. The margin is in this orangish color. There are still quite a few overlooked things that Tesla is doing that are not really fully priced in, and the supercharging stations could be one of those. Then Larry calculates capital efficiency, which really looks quite amazing. From the investor deck, we know that installation costs run at below $45,000 per post, and he is estimating 50% gross margin as percentage of capital. Larry, of course, is really excited about this business that Tesla has built. And there's one thing that I would like to add. It is quite clear that the business will grow exponentially, but another thing that may not be as obvious is think about who buys EVs and who doesn't. Do people that go on a lot of road trips right now, do they buy EVs? For me personally, I like Tesla. I love Tesla. But if I had to go on long road trips all the time, I would not be buying a Tesla yet. I would in the future, but not yet. If I road trip all the time. For that to change, either charging speeds have to be faster, or the batteries have to be bigger or more energy dense, or a combination of both, or EVs need to be the only legal choice for people to buy, together with other zero-emission vehicles. I personally think the batteries are going to be more energy dense and charging speeds will increase. So I think later, in terms of total revenue generated, I think that is going to go up per vehicle because these people that are reluctant to buying an EV currently, eventually they will cave in and buy an EV. And these people will be stopping at superchargers more often than your regular drivers currently. For competition though, for example, Ford, GM, and other automakers, I think it really makes sense to try as hard as possible to partner up with Tesla so that their customers can access the Tesla's network. Because why do you want to invest a lot of money into something that you know you're not going to be able to make as well as Tesla? And on top of that, even if you decide to build your own network, it is going to take quite a bit of time. If you make a deal with Tesla, immediately you have access to this huge network. There is certainly quite a bit of shareholder value in the supercharging business long term. It also, of course, all depends on what kind of PE you attach to these earnings from the supercharging business. For example, if you attach a 30 PE ratio on top of $3 per share, then you got $90 additionally added to Tesla's stock price. But Larry here was only looking 5 years into the future. Look 10 years, 15 years into the future, and these numbers start to look really interesting. Owning most of the gas stations, I think, is not a bad idea for Tesla. And now today's Tesla stock news. There's not that much, but this is a pretty important story. Reuters is reporting that Elon Musk is expected to visit China this week. This is a pretty big deal because this could potentially have something to do with the Model 3, the Highland Model 3, the refreshed version of the Model 3 being announced in China perhaps. A few more reasons for Elon to go to China. Number one, Tesla announced the Megapack factory earlier this year that Tesla will start building it. And the next thing, which is probably the bigger reason for Elon to go, is Tesla wants to expand its Giga Shanghai factory to 1.75 million units annually. And earlier, Tesla had some difficulties getting approved for more capacity, and maybe Elon just needs to talk nicely to some of these government officials for Tesla to actually be able to start producing these faster. Years ago, Elon laughed at BYD, but now he is acknowledging that BYD cars are highly competitive these days. This is good news for Tesla stock investors and especially for Colorado residents because you guys now have new EV incentives. You can get $5,000 just from a state alone for an EV that costs up to $80,000. Drive Tesla Canada is reporting that there are some Model 3s being discounted in Canada by up to $2,320. It could have something to do with old hardware 3.0 being replaced by hardware 4.0 perhaps. Or it could also be Tesla just wanting to clear out all of the inventory because perhaps we will see the refresh Model 3 out and in production very soon. Drive Tesla Canada also has an article today about Tesla Model 3 production slowing down at Giga Shanghai, hinting at switch over to Project Highland refresh. And with Elon Musk going over to China, that makes a lot of sense. We of course don't know exactly when the refresh Model 3 is going to come out. For now, we just have rumors. In this video, I talk about Tesla starting to advertise. My name is Matt Post. Just like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.